That's the beauty of the HomeLab community. We're a diverse, we all come from our different backgrounds, and it's beautiful, and it's like this tapestry of community.
Yeah.
And everyone that I've interacted with personally has just been the coolest people that I could ever have the pleasure of meeting.
Yeah.
You are obviously one of those people, and I've had a great time with you today, man. It's been great.
Here.
So my name's Andrew Pealock. I am a HomeLab tech enthusiast and have been for pretty much my whole life. I really deeply enjoy tinkering, getting hands-on both with the hardware and software side of things. And I have always been fascinated by large amounts of storage and RAIDs and places to put all of your stuff, and having an opportunity to be in front of the 45 Drive team is great, and I'm excited to talk all about it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, man. I was looking at the video that you posted about your current HomeLab and everything there. With the HL8, good choice on the American Eagle front plate on it. Yeah, that's a good one. But so for, I guess, people who are watching there, kind of what's your background right now? What do you use your HomeLab for, the entire infrastructure? Is it more just hobby? Does it relate to what you currently do? Kind of all that stuff.
Yeah. So it's kind of a pretty common journey, I think, that many people before me have taken, which is you sort of start out with your little garage band, and you're kind of throwing together a little PC, and then you install maybe Proxmox or Debian and start installing some apps and stuff. And then it kind of just builds and builds and builds. And then you can kind of transition and make it more of a professional, take that transition from hobbyist, enthusiast, and then professional production type equipment. So at my house, I do have the HL8. It's just running bare metal Proxmox with a variety of I use the LXC containers for like all my hosted services. And then I also have a virtual machine that's running Home Assistant, which kind of controls all the ins and outs of my home. And that's what my wife and I use to track our location. And, it sends out automated little pings and pongs if I'm entering and exiting, like if I'm if I'm leaving my office and heading home, she gets kind of like a fully automated roadmap of where I'm at all times. And we're not relying on Google to kind of peep into our personal lives. We're able to maintain some of that privacy and structure. Yeah. And the rest of it is just, a pretty large, for personal use, a pretty large storage volume, for all of our, like home videos and Linux ISOs and photos and things like that, that I kind of keep around. And then I do have a few publicly facing hosted services as well. For one is like Smoke Ping, so I can, no matter where I am, I can pull up a URL and see like my DNS latency graph. And if I'm having some issues with my ISP provider, I have rock solid logs that I can go back to and show them exactly where the outages were occurring and stuff, which as a customer, that gives you quite a bit of leverage. If they're trying to deny that there was like a service outage, you can pull up your logs and dispute it with the receipts. So,
it's like Phoenix Wright style. It's like objection. Here's everything I have.
Exactly.
Nice.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right on.
So that's basically like the HomeLab setup. It's pretty straightforward. It's running like an Intel 14th gen, I think. So it has the onboard quick sync encoders for media transcoding. And I also used a motherboard. I think it's a Q670 motherboard, and it has an onboard SAS connector. So it breaks out to the SATA backplane of my HL8, and I don't have to put in an additional PCI expansion card, because the only thing with the HL8 is it's mini ITX. So you kind of have to map out, your IO, and you really want to cram in as much on the motherboard as you can, because most motherboards, you only get that one PCI slot. So
exactly.
The factor.
Yeah, it's funny. Buddy that I work with, actually, we started at the same time. We both have HL8s. I put a NIC card in mine for the PCI slot. He put the HBA in because he wants to take full advantage of all those lanes and everything. So it's kind of cool how you can set it up to work in a certain way depending on what your home lab environment is, what you're trying to accomplish. And but
that's exactly right.
Yeah. So you mentioned smoke ping, and noticed that you had a bunch of other containers in your video there. What are some of the other ones that you have? I'm kind of always looking for new tools, and with Proxmox specifically, I'm just diving into using LXCs more since they did those updates with LXCs. So
yeah, gotcha. So I recently switched. In the video, I talked about Nginx Proxy Manager, and that is a reverse proxy for hosting services on the web, like I mentioned with SmokePing. I have actually recently started using Caddy in my home environment, and I really like it. You just feed it a really basic YAML file, and it kind of just magically does all the things in the background. It takes care of your SSL certificates. It does all of your port forwarding for you. So I'm actually migrating for my home. I'm migrating to Caddy for that. So that's in an LXC. I also am using Jellyfin for media sharing, and that's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. I tried Plex for a while and just felt kind of uncomfortable with their licensing schemes and felt like they weren't necessarily the most trustworthy from like a longevity perspective. So I did migrate away from Plex and went full-time into Jellyfin and have been now for about 3 years. And I also use MQTT and Zigbee to MQTT for all my lighting. So those are hosted in separate LXCs as well, which then connect back to Home Assistant for like giving me a graphical interface. I have a Ursats TV LXC set up, which shout out self-hosted. I learned this from Alex at self-hosted. They talked about it, and I kind of dove into it. And it basically just generates a live TV guide and a live TV feed that you feed it a source media folder. So, for example, I have a 24/7 Office Ursats channel, and mine is set up to just randomly play episodes. You can do it sequential. So if you kind of get hooked onto one and you want to watch the next episode, you can change that. But I find I like just the randomized thing and Alex talks about this as well. Like it's really great to just be able to pull it up on your phone and just hop right into an episode. You've probably already watched it a few times. Like, you know, kind of the context of the plot. You're just wanting the decision to be made for you as, you know, what should I watch? Well,
throw on your comfort show or something like
it.
that. Something that's just like, I can have in the background that's
exactly. So that's fantastic. And then I use Pi-hole. Right now, it's doing just kind of network-wide ad blocking for whatever the default community list of kind of known actors for ad blocking. And then I also have basically like a blackout for my daughter's homeschooling computer. So she's running Endless OS on just a little B-Link mini PC. And I basically funnel all the internet traffic through Pi-hole, and I only allow certain DNS names. So, you know, it's very strict. She can only get on and do like her video lessons and a few other little websites that we use for homeschooling.
Oh, that's smart. I kind of wish that was more standard with don't have kids myself, but a lot of family, friends and everything. They're kind of just, here's your iPad, here's the computer, whatever. And it's like just open rain. And it's just like, it's like, probably like chances are it'll be fine, whatever. It's like, why take the chance? It's like, and there's so much information out there where it's just like, okay, you can get this set up very cheaply, like some cheap hardware So that's really good to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even with all of those services running on the HomeLab, I'm only seeing about 5% CPU usage. Nice. Even when I'm transcoding with Jellyfin and things like that, very minimal overhead. So the LXCs, I mean, there's a big debate, Docker and all that other stuff. And I've done the Docker route before, and I do enjoy that as well. But for me, I like to be able to just have a full Linux kernel, more or less, that I can kind of dive into and really make any changes I want within the LXC and not have to do that from external environment variables. But they are more prone to breaking if you're, a little bit more chaotic with your command line copy and pasting. Yeah. So there's trade-offs, but for me, that's what I enjoy.
Yeah. The one thing, and I think you might have mentioned this in your video, was that you like having that they're separated in kind of their own like unique spaces. Might have been something else that I was watching, but that's something that I'm getting into now because I have basically one VM on my Proxmox, like an old setup that has probably 20 plus containers running on it. And I'm usually command line. So I'll use Portainer or Arcane every once in a while for like GUI management.
From an API perspective. So it's really easy when you do break things out into their own LXCs, you get really granular control of like automations. So, if you need to reboot or run a command or something like that, you can very narrowly scope automations to the LXC containers, and then that's all exposed through the API. So that's another huge benefit versus, and I was guilty at one point as well of having, a VM basically running all the things. But yeah, having the LXCs, it does give you more guardrails and more fine control of resources.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I'm kind of just like, I will do it one day, but it's like the same thing with...
it's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Home Assistant. Like, I'm always like, I am going to get into using Home Assistant, like MQTT, like that whole stack and everything, get some hardware to like control my lights, get a like panel to control my the temperature of my house, things like that. And I'm like, when am I going to do this? But it's one of those things that's like such a big undertaking. But that's part of the HomeLab fun too, where it's just like, okay, you're learning something new, you're experimenting, failing a bit, small successes.
Yeah, I distinctly remember a few years ago, kind of when I finally decided to take the deep dive. I took just a basic Bash course on Udemy and kind of went through, and I remember I was like, it was kind of like, I don't know, 8 or 9 p.m. at night. I was laptop in bed. My wife's sitting next to me. She's, on the tablet, and I'm got my headphones in, and all of a sudden there was one module in particular, and it just clicked. And it was like from that point on, I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I don't know if it was probably something really silly, like understanding delimiters or something within the command structure. But it was like, once that click happened, then it was like Matrix Neo, like, okay, I see now each command broken out, and I understand pipes and, all that stuff. And that was a huge moment for me. And I love seeing like those moments happen for my other friends and stuff that are kind of in the HomeLab community. And you get those along the way. That wasn't just the only one. I've had many after that, but that one really stuck with me.
Yeah. So, it's so funny that you mentioned that too, because when I first started here, I been with 45 Drives for about 5 years now. I mainly work in the service department, so dealing with customers quite a bit and everything. And I didn't start with any Linux experience. I was certified welder, scaffolder, and then worked at a furniture warehouse before I started here. And I was like, well, I have a fear of heights, so I don't want to do scaffolding for the next 30 years. And then furniture warehouse, I was like, I don't want to go breaking my back for the next 30 years for low pay. So started doing like my A+ and everything like that. But when I started here and learning that it's going to be like primarily Linux and everything, I was like, okay. And I probably ended up using the same Udemy course just because of they do the whole, it's like, oh yeah, this course is usually $200, but you can get it for $10.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, I'll take this Bash course, this Python course.
Exactly. Yeah, Bash was my like gateway drug, I guess, if that's okay to say. Like that was the one that it just spoke the language that made sense to me. And it was, you have such control over the computer. It's like, if I want to, I can type a command and make my computer do almost anything. This is a game changer. And especially being an Apple user as well, having that underlying Unix with Brew and things like that, it was like, it just made too much sense not to go all in. So yeah, that was kind of part of the journey.
Yeah, and it's a good jumping off block too, because it's like when you go to Badge, it's like kind of get a better understanding for some of those other levels, like Python and those other languages there. Like I'm trying to do Python right now. Still a little slow on the uptick there, but it's like the same thing. Like I kind of had that same moment with Bash and learning about like ZFS and things under the hood, whereas like, oh, this is all connecting now. This makes sense. So still waiting for that on Python, but yeah, it's always fun.
So I have a cool little side tangent. If we could do this for maybe 3 minutes, I'll explain. So for my business, AMP Studios, I am like an IT provider, but I also am what's called an integrator, which means I kind of look at the whole topology of a business setup, and I try to find creative ways to connect dots. Like something like if they have key fob system, to be able to connect up the key fob system, automated access, maybe with a NTFY notify server, self-hosted notify server, so that the business managers can get automated notifications on their phone. And, there's API exposures and stuff for all that. So that's kind of my background. That's what makes me tick, is solving these really fun problems. One problem I had, an opportunity, I should say, not a problem. I had a customer, and they actually run a quick lube oil change service station, and they wanted they use a cloud application called DropTop, and they wanted to see the vehicle information on TVs throughout their whole facility. And DropTop, those guys are great, but their solution was like Chrome stick and cast from a laptop, which is fine if you're running a 1 or 2 bay kind of like very, mom and pop operation. But this is like a 4 bay double decker. They want TVs everywhere. They want it looking discreet. They don't want, computers hanging off the back. So I used Python and Selenium with the Chrome driver and automated basically a web browser that navigates through all of the prompts in the cloud dashboard and pulls up the bay screens for each of the bays, and then fed that into a video matrix and just ran standard like Cat6 networking and coax video lines to the different TVs. So it's all automated. They come in every day. The TVs automatically turn on, the screens automatically turn on, and backing all of it is Home Assistant and Python, which was like one of the funnest projects I've ever done. Cool. And it's been in production now for it'll be 3 years, maybe 2.5 years. And I think I've only had one instance where I had to like go full crash cart and go over there and like replace something. Most of it can be done with WireGuard and SSH and that sort of stuff. And it's all Raspberry Pi based. So yeah, really good
awesome.
time.
And that's cool here too, because it's like, okay, you have this solution. Like if you're describing that to somebody who isn't isn't very technologically inclined or anything, you're like, okay, this sounds like it's going to be really expensive. But then like you and I talking, it's like, okay, we're talking Raspberry Pis, we're talking doing this via Python, Selenium, things like that, some Cat6 cables. It's like, okay, that's a pretty small footprint. And
Yeah. Compared to, the more enterprise solutions that are available for digital signage, something like a Bright Sign player or even Airtable, to get that sort of granular control with one of those vendors would be, maybe $1,500, $2,000 per TV.
Oh wow.
And so I was able to really dramatically change the not only did the end result work better, in my opinion, but it was also a fraction of the cost. So go team open source.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
So with AMP Studios, do you kind of specialize like with IT and integrations with specific industries or anything, or is it kind of just if you have any sort of specific IT or integration needs, you're there?
Yeah. So I'm definitely service a lot of customers in a lot of different industries. I would say that my biggest customers are churches, actually. So I do a lot of audio visual lighting integration as well. So helping them set up sound systems and their lighting systems and video cameras and live streaming. So that was kind of what I did prior to getting into like strictly IT. So those are like kind of my biggest customers. But I also do, I have small, medium-sized businesses. I'm working right now with like a roofing company. I've done work at like an industrial plant where they have these big machines, and I've gone in and like, installed hike vision cameras and stuff. Just random opportunities that definitely keep my weeks interesting. I never quite know exactly what I'm getting into, but when the phone rings, I answer, and I've been really fortunate to have those opportunities.
It's funny that you mentioned that too. So being that you're in IT, how often do you get not even so much as family or anything, just somebody hears you're in IT and they're like, hey, can you look at this issue for me? Is it a constant thing?
Yeah, it can be. I think a lot of times, especially if it is a family member, they are very quick to ask me something that maybe was sort of obvious to me at the time, but maybe not so obvious to them. But yeah, you do have to be careful saying the magic word, around certain people, because they will just kind of, I think so many people feel kind of helpless and disenfranchised, and they're confused. And it's like, oh, someone with a slight bit of knowledge to help me navigate this, spider web of issues. And then you're kind of the savior on the back of a horse,
Yeah. But, it's funny though. Like I've had a few occasions where that's happened, not only with family, but recent one, actually. I had somebody where I go to get, where I see my RMT for like physio or like massages, things like that. It's a small shop, like local. And I was going to make some payments and stuff like that, and noticed that their payment link that they had, it's non-encrypted, doesn't have an SSL cert or anything like that. And I was like, hey, just want to let you know about this here. That doesn't look super great. And they were like, oh, would you mind coming in to fix that for us? I was like, I can, but who set it up in the first place? And it's just what did I get myself into?
Yeah, sometimes you bite off a little bit more than you realize, and especially with something like that, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not stepping into somebody else's environment where they've done their security. I'm like, I'm just gonna give you the info and you can feed it back to them. But yeah, it's funny how that turns out sometimes.
Yep.
So with AMP Studios, how long have you been running that?
Well, I've had what I've kind of called AMP Studios for about a decade. It started out as a video production kind of freelance. That's what I kind of branded my freelance video production services under. So I was primarily a video editor for a while, and then I got really deep into 2D animation in After Effects, and then I eventually got deep into 3D animation with Cinema 4D. And so I was doing those sorts of things, which required quite a bit of technical understanding. So I've always been kind of wired that way. And especially once I got into the bigger production environments, everything's networked together. They usually have like an on-premise file server. I saw a lot of QNAP and Synology along the way, which are both great in their own respects.
Oh, yeah.
And and then my wife and I moved our family from where we were at in Tennessee all the way up to Pennsylvania. Where she's from. And that was sort of kind of this like reset moment for me, where I was no longer around a lot of the industry contacts I had, and in a completely different, much more rural environment. And so I started working as an electrician part-time, and then noticed that they had a lot of customers needing networking, low volt, connections, maybe a couple of Cat6 wires to their home office, or if it was a business, wiring up a couple of access points. And I just kind of worked my way through the ranks there, and then had enough momentum to take it full time. And I made the jump about 3 years ago was when I took it full time, and have seen a lot of growth. And like I said, I never know what I'm going to do in a week, but that's kind of the fun of it, and scratches the little ADD part in my brain. And
man, trust me, I hear you on that. When it comes to that sort of thing, I am just like, okay, somebody like my girlfriend, for instance, she'll bring up some sort of issue with me. It'll be something. So she's big into like Tamagotchis, for instance. She always loved those, like since she was a kid, and now she has them as an adult. And she looks at them and she's like, "Oh, can you? I bought this used one, and it is it's not working, whatever, like that." And I'm like, "Okay, let me get the whole setup out. Let me take a look at it here. What's going on? Is it need to be soldered? Something like that." It same thing, scratches that little itch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so now it's what I do full time. So I'm really fortunate to be able to have the team that I do. I'm the sole kind of person running the company, but I have a lot of contractors that I work with just across different industries. So
cool. And it's cool to hear that like being this integrator and kind of this IT pro, that when you go into a location, you're doing primarily self-hosted open source from the sounds of it. Yes. That's definitely your forefront, your passion. And it's kind of cool to hear that is that's kind of your bread and butter, because I mean, one, it's always something cool to work with, especially if it isn't working the way you want. You can kind of mold it for the most part to do what you need, and you kind of pass those savings, that ease of use kind of to that end client, which is always good.
Yeah. And as you know, I've worked with a lot of different IT providers and integrators as a subcontractor, just being told, hey, go here, do this. And I do feel like they try to put like one size fits all solutions onto the customer. And usually those are much more expensive, a lot more limited in their capability, and like have no flexibility for like future connectivity. The beautiful thing about if I put Home Assistant into a business, you've got this like amazing vendor interoperability. If I want to control a garage door with a light switch, it's like 2 Shellys and you're done, and otherwise you'd be getting like a Crestron, Lutron system and having to spend all this money on their, control software and licensing. Whereas I don't shy away from the open source solutions, because in the end, the customer wins, and I feel like I can maintain those projects better because I have full control over the tools.
Yeah, you're not going back to the vendor to be like, hey, having this issue, or you don't have to worry about voiding any kind of warranty because you worked on, even though it's something simple that you can do and is easy to fix. But and thing that I find a lot is that, so with the Houston UI that we have, it's built on top of another open source project, Cockpit project. And for a lot of our tools that we made internally, if there's a bug or anything like that, it's basically go down to R&D that's like 50 feet away from where we're filming right now and be like, hey, we have this issue. But with some of those more proprietary solutions, it's like, okay, let's check on the forum, see if there's anything. Oh no, it's an ongoing bug. Okay, I guess we just got to wait until it's patched, if ever, which is definitely annoying.
Yeah. So there's obviously pros and cons. I know some people like the peace of mind that like the big box store solutions offer, but most of the customers I work with are very much so willing to take a chance, and they see the long-term benefits versus the short-term. Maybe it takes more development cost to the customer, but then the long-term plan out is much better for them. So,
and I feel like a large part of that too is like, not only is like, okay, they're willing to take on open source, they hear like, oh, okay, won't be as expensive, but it's also the person that's like pitching it. And like, this is the first time we met. This is like just talking to you for the first time. And I'm like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I would definitely hire him to do any of my open source stuff, any sort of my business operations. So I feel like that's another important aspect to it.
Well, looks like I succeeded in fooling you. So,
Damn. Fooled again.
Right. Oh man, no, you're right. And in my area in particular, it's very word of mouth heavy. So once you start that kind of referral snowball, that does kind of help with that platform of trust, because you're right. It does take a bit of trust to kind of be like, I mean, you want to do this yourself? Shouldn't we, just use this? I can order it, get it here. Like you can, but I promise in like a year, that is not going to take you where you want to go. And you're going to end up, right back where you started versus putting in infrastructure, spending your money on infrastructure. It's like just go and buy 1,000 Legos and build what you want. Like don't just buy the one little Star Wars toy. Like buy a box of Legos and have fun.
Yeah. Go on eBay, just get a used chest of Legos there, like 3,000 pieces versus 500 pieces brand new. That's quadruple the cost. Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And honestly, man, the secondhand market for tech hardware is alive and well. I mean, we're struggling right now. I know this will timestamp our conversation, but we are struggling currently with storage and RAM. So that's an issue.
Are we?
Yeah,
that's new. No. I hear you.
So that's an issue. But other than that, I mean, you can get all sorts of hardware available online. And, I would say spend your money on a good chassis because that's what's going to take you years and years into the, future. Mm-hmm. I hear there's a company that makes really good server chassis.
Yeah, I think I might know one. Yeah, they put some sick designs on the front, maybe like a American Eagle.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So spend your money there because that the ruggedness is going to be very important for the lifespan of the product. But then go on eBay and buy a processor, buy whatever, and have fun with it. So.
Yeah. And again, it's like you have that hardware, and then it's like that open source solution. Because I mean, like you said, Synology and those QNAP devices, they're all great, they're fantastic. But like that repairability, that if you want to do anything yourself, like upgrade the RAM or upgrade like the CPU in it, it's extremely limited, if impossible at all. So
right,
yeah.
And thankfully, there are people like Wendell at Level 1 Techs that put tremendous amounts of energy and effort into like reverse engineering those devices for the everyday man. But there's still quite a bit of a climb, even when you're using the prefabricated solutions. There's a really steep learning curve once you run out of options. So
yeah. Kind of bottlenecks yourself. But
exactly.
There was one thing mentioned, our marketing person there, they were like, yeah, so you're going to be talking to Andrew in a few days here. And it's like, here's a few topics. And there was one there that was kind of interesting that I never really thought about. That was, you mentioned about privacy, data ownership, and kind of family awareness. Now, I know you touched a little bit about that with your daughter there and having things a bit more locked down to her. Can you expand on that a little bit more, like how you have things kind of set up for your environment?
Absolutely. This is something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm really grateful that my, career and my hobby has enabled me to take actions on behalf of my family. So we, like I mentioned earlier with the Home Assistant, location tracking, for example, we're very, aware of who's watching. And I try to be very careful about shielding my children from any sort of data harvesting, so all of my security cameras at my house, all self-hosted. I can go downstairs and drill a hole in the hard drive and all the footage goes away. It never goes out to a cloud service. And what that has done is that sort of made my kids have an expectation that like they know that we have a server. Like my 7-year-old daughter will tell me all the time, she's like, yeah, can we watch this movie or something? Is it on the server? And they see what I'm doing, and I think it's making an impact on them to see hands-on owning the hardware. And even though they don't have the comprehension of like the nuts and bolts and stuff, we talk about we talk about it with them. And then, of course, my wife and I are very conscious of what sort of activity they are doing online. To go back to the movies thing, we love like old school Disney movies and, those that sort of thing for our children. But there are certain moments in those movies that could be a little bit intense for their age. And so I've kind of created these like daddy approved edits where I kind of go through and pull out just little glimpses and pieces and then, re-encode it and stick it on the server. And that's just the peace of mind knowing that, we've kind of screened the content and then there's no way that they can go, outside of that. It's a sandbox environment with our jellyfin. And, they can click around and we know we have the peace of mind knowing that all the content that is available to them is sort of like approved by us, whereas if you just do the blanket Disney Plus subscription and you log in, even with the filtering and parental controls, there's still some things on there that, for some parents, they would rather not have their children exposed to. So.
Yeah, 100%. And even a lot of services I find, YouTube Kids is definitely like the worst culprit I find, where it's like, oh, you have YouTube Kids, but it's like a lot of that stuff is still not like kid friendly and whatnot. But yeah, it's good to hear that you do kind of have that forethought of protecting your kids from that sort of thing, those kind of malicious things out there. With the so 2 questions from that. First, you mentioned old school Disney movies. Do you have a favorite?
Toy Story.
Toy Story? Nice.
Yeah.
Hercules for me.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yeah. I find that Toy Story is just so quotable and it was like the first, just beautifully animated movie. And I remember watching it when I was, my kid's age. And so there's the nostalgia factor, but yeah, Hercules is also a rock solid choice.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
And then my other question is, so obviously big into self-hosting, everything like that. Are there any services that you either don't want to self-host or that you can't self-host for some reason right now?
Well, in my home, I think we're at a pretty good place. I'm working through getting Image back up and running. I had it for a little bit and then there was a breaking change between updates and I just haven't had the time to fix it. So we're trying to get away from Google Photos because that's what we kind of fell back to using. So that's one. I won't say that I can't host it. It's just I need to host it.
Yeah.
But I guess the big thing right now is with my work, which is on a whole separate server and infrastructure and has a whole separate ISP connection and everything. I do occasionally use language models for helping me code. I haven't really used many of the agentic type of workflows, but I don't have really a good way of hosting open source like an open weights language model right now. I do have an old Windows computer with a 3090, which you can put a pretty decent size model on, but nothing comes close to like firing up Claude Code or, and just watching that thing rip. Yeah. So those sorts of services right now, I'm still kind of relying on the cloud for that. But
that's one of those things, especially until costs on hardware come down. I'm pessimistic. I'm in the boat that it's it was the same thing when COVID hit and prices for everything skyrocketed, but then it never. They were like, oh yeah, prices are lowering, but they increased 200%, but then they came down 15%. I kind of feel that's the same thing. And there's one thing I always go back to with that is I bought my house a few months before it really hit down here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go build a deck for my house. And it was like, okay, 2x4s were $4 and something for an 8-foot. And then a couple of months later, 6 months, they were 12 something. And I'm like, yeah, and now I'm seeing it again with RAM. And the RAM one doesn't even compare. That's just an insane increase. But
I agree. I don't know because unfortunately corporations be corporating. So it's like once they know that the consumer will pay, I mean, they might drop the price a little bit, but I don't know if we'll ever get back to where it was before.
No.
So that's a good time, I guess, to talk about the fact that Windows is a memory hog and extremely hardware inefficient, and jumping ship so that you get back some of your RAM may not be the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It's a real factor right now that people are considering. I mean, you know, 100%. You got to make your hardware go as far as you can, and you don't have the luxury of just cramming more speed into it these days. So one thing I wanted to mention was, so in my production environment, which is also Proxmox based, I self-host a lot of the tools that I use for my business.
Yeah. So
a couple of standouts. I've got my little VE dashboard pulled up. So RustDesk. RustDesk. Yeah. So I self-host that. I do pay for the pro license. It's like, I don't know, $120 a year, but you get unlimited clients and installs, and then it's a one-click install script and to update it. And then I also build the custom clients for my customers, so I can just send them a download link and immediately connect, and it is amazing. I've used a lot of different remote software options, and it's definitely my favorite one overall.
Big thing, like, being that I work in the service department, like, still use TeamViewer quite a bit, but whenever I can, it's like, if there is, I'll use RustDesk to remote into, like, if I have another instance stood up here or something like that. And it's just one of those things, it just feels so streamlined, like it's not bloated. Like, I kind of feel like TeamViewer is with so many other things, and I'm pretty sure even it has AI integration now, which is like a whole other thing that...
Yeah.
But it's just like, here's my password, here's my ID, connect, okay, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. Another service I use is Invoice Ninja. So I do all my bookkeeping through Invoice Ninja, and it auto generates the PDFs and emails them out, and then I can track payments and expenses and everything. And, you know, like an alternative to that solution would be like QuickBooks Online, which, you know, once again, everything's on the cloud. Everything is managed by someone else's hardware. And and it costs a lot more. So that was a huge step for me when I finally, you know, started using it full time. It is a little bit more involved to install. I'm not going to lie. It uses PHP, and I was kind of out of my element a little bit, but once I got it up and running, it was okay. And I've actually had it break and had to fix it. So, you know, I've been there, but I would much rather have that. And once again, the ownership, it's a recurring theme, like ownership, and having that. The other thing I use from time to time is Foryeho, which is a self-hosted like GitHub alternative.
Okay.
And you can actually connect Foryeho to your GitHub account and do automated backups of your repositories. So it will reach out at a predefined interval to a GitHub repo and like basically run git clone. But then you also get like the full interface of GitHub to navigate the code. And then you can also use it from a git pull, git push command line infrastructure as well. So it's a nice way to kind of circumvent some of the limitations of GitHub without having to pay. And it's all self-hosted as well, and backed. All my stuff is backed by ZFS storage. So, you know, you got that peace of mind.
Nice. So, I'm going to have to look into that one. You looked into
it's pretty cool.
Gitti or Gittia. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it.
Yep.
But I was using that one a bit, which was good, but I was like, maybe I didn't give it enough time, but I was like, okay, I'll stick to just GitHub for now. It's what I have, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, like I said, always looking for new tools and everything. You mentioned your, you had like your security system and everything like that. What are you using for that? Like Frigate or what's the other one?
No, I actually use Ubiquity.
Oh, okay.
I love their cameras. I love their software, and their mobile app is amazing. So They have an API, so I can interact with it through Home Assistant, and it, it's cloud enabled in the sense that it uses a relay server to tunnel over the internet. So like when you're connecting from your phone, you don't have to have like a static IP and all of that. It does the tunneling for you. But that data is peer-to-peer encrypted. Mm-hmm. So it's never, sitting on a server somewhere. It's not like it's caching video thumbnails on a server. It's just a peer-to-peer tunnel for playback. So I feel very confident using that system. And it seems like every update just keeps getting better. And I install tons of Ubiquiti equipment for my company. And once again, I feel like they're in the same kind of camp as me philosophically, which is like own the hardware. You don't have to pay licenses, and it has an open API. You can SSH into the machines. Like you have root control if you want it.
Yeah.
Now their routers, obviously you don't get as much control as you would from like a pfSense type environment. Mm-hmm. But I'll just say from my own experience, when I go to my Unify site manager, I've got upwards of 40 different sites that I'm monitoring. That would be really difficult to do if all of those were pfSense hardware. I'm not saying it's impossible, but having the quite literally unified interface for all of my different deployments has been a huge help for my company. So I'm not trying to unify Shill. I love their products. So that's what I use.
It's funny that you mentioned that though, because like I've been like just waiting to pull the trigger on. There was a UDM Dream Machine Pro, I think, that they had for sale, and I was like,
yes, yep.
And I was like, oh man, do I pull the trigger on it now? But it, like up here in Canada, they're like 900 plus tax, and I'm like, this is just going to be for my HomeLab, but it's an opportunity to learn more, treat myself.
Yeah. For their cameras, they have the UNVR Instant, which is they just released a few months ago, and it's like $200, and it has a built-in 6-port PoE switch. And it's a very competitive. I feel like they're going after like the Costco kind of camera bundle type stuff with that product, and I've deployed a few of them, and they're fantastic. So yeah, the barrier of entry with their product for some of their products is high, but then I think they are trying to, bring down some solutions for your everyday, home labber. So
that's always good too.
Yeah,
but I didn't really have too much else there. Andrew, was there anything else? Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you, man. It was
man, this is really cool.
Yeah, I'm always like. Every time it's like you're going in cold, like just talking to somebody for the first time. It's like, all right, are there going to be any of those lulls? Is there going to be any of those awkward silences? But it was good, man. I think we had a good flow and everything.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. I'll say one quirky thing about me is, so I'm probably one of the only people you'll ever meet who in the span of the same hour will go from SSHing into a production server and fixing like a very small bug in an Etsy file to then walking outside and chainsawing and splitting firewood. So it's within the same hour, it's just that's the reality of my life right now. We live in rural Pennsylvania. I burn firewood to keep my house warm. And that's just one of those funny little quirks about me. It's like, if I had to just be like one of those cold open, what's different about you?
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, that's a pretty good one. It's like, I'm just picturing that out. It's like, all right, got the bug fixed. It's like you just have the axe or the chainsaw like nearby. It's like, all right, job one's done. Time to go job two.
Exactly. Yeah, literally MacBook on the bed of my truck, and yeah. So it's a good time, but that's the beauty of the HomeLab community. We're a diverse. We all come from our different backgrounds, and it's beautiful, and it's like this tapestry of community. And everyone that I've interacted with personally has just been the coolest people that I could ever have the pleasure of meeting. You are obviously one of those people, and I've had a great time with you today, man. That's been great.
Did you want to plug your business, any socials, anything like that?
I mean, I'll throw out my website. I guess that I probably should take that opportunity. So my website is ampstudios.io. It's got a decent amount of information on it. I'm in the process of overhauling to do some case studies because I want to do a deep dive into that, like that oil change station and the solutions I put in. So it'll be getting some love soon. Yeah, it'll be getting some love soon. I do want to make a companion video as well that I kind of walk around and vlog a little bit. But yeah, ampstudios.io, and then YouTube. My YouTube channel is just Pealock, Pealock. So if people want to check it out, it's fantastic.
Cool. All right, man. Well, it was great talking to you, and hope you have a great weekend. All right.
Yeah, you too, man. I'll see you later. Thank you.